Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream on the History podcast. Today I'm joined by Mike Jones, also known as Inspiring Philosophy. And here's this YouTube channel right here. I have it tagged in the description below, and it will be in the pinned comment as well. So if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, you can go over there and subscribe now. And today we're going to be discussing how to easily debunk Islam. So we're going to be talking about problems with Islam, a couple of different dilemmas with it. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Mike, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be doing this.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So, take the mic. Tell us where you want to start off with the Islamic dilemma.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very easy argument that anyone can use to really show Islam is false. We've been pushing it, like us Christians have been, and Muslims have been attacking, trying to push back, saying it's like a pro-Christian argument, and we're like confused because we're like, no, this is an anti-Islamic argument. Anybody can use this. An atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Hindu, Jew, anyone can use this to attack Islam. And it's very easy. It's very quick and efficient to show. You memorize just a few Quran references, not even the verses, and you can do the Islamic dilemma in less than a minute to just show Islam is false. So it's one of the easiest religions to debunk, surprisingly. And we can go over 2 Islamic dilemmas today that I presented recently.
So what's the first one you want to start with?
Yeah, so this is the most famous one. This is the one we've been pushing. So basically, in a nutshell, this is the Islamic dilemma. The Quran claims to confirm the prior scriptures that the Jews and the Christians possess. Okay? Now, right then and there, a red flag should go up. Well, wait a minute. I thought Islam and Christianity and Judaism contradicted. Why is it saying it confirms the prior scriptures? And it says this in a multitude of places, like Surah 3, Surah 3:3-4, Surah 5, 43-48, Surah 568, Surah 29:46, Surah 1094. So it says this in a multitude of places. It says it claims to confirm the prior scriptures. Okay, well, now we've created a dilemma because either the scriptures the Jews and the Christians possess are divine revelations from God or they're not. All right. So, but if they are divine revelations, well, then we can go read them and we can be like, well, these contradict what the Quran teaches. So the Quran is false. But if our prior revelations have been corrupted, aka the Jewish Christian scriptures, then Islam is also false because then it is confirming or preaching or saying you should use these prior scriptures. So either way, Islam is false. So if I were to come across a Muslim on the streets and use this, I'd be like, well, hold on. Doesn't your Quran claim to confirm the prior scriptures? Here, look at Surah 568, Surah 1094, Surah 29:46. So if it's claiming to do that, we can go look at the prior scriptures and see that it contradicts Islam. And then he'll say, well, those have been corrupted. Well, then Islam is false because then it's confirming prior scriptures that have apparently been corrupted. Therefore, Islam is false either way. And look, you can do that in 30 seconds? Very easy to do.
Yeah, because if the previous religions, which Islam is based upon, is corrupt, but they're also saying that they're confirming them at the same time, how does that work? What mechanism, what methodology does Islam have to determine, okay, this part of this religion or that part of that religion is BS, but this part of it's fact? Like, how do they sort that out? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And there's no place in the Quran where it tells you what parts of the prior scriptures have been corrupted and what haven't. In fact, there's no place in the Quran where it says the Jewish and Christian scriptures have been corrupted. Let me just read from Surah 5 here. Do you want to put this on? Do you want me to put it on the screen for people can see?
Yeah,
let's do that there. So just go to Surah 5, and I will deal with this, and then I'll deal with an objection they tend to use because this is like their go-to place to try to deal with it, which is ironic because this is one of our go-to places to show the Islamic dilemma. So starting in Surah 5:43, but this is talking about the Jews. They went to Muhammad to settle dispute, and this is Allah's answer through Muhammad, so to speak. This is what the Muslims would claim. This is Allah's answer through Muhammad. But why do they come to you for judgment when they have the Torah containing Allah's judgment? Then they turn away after all. They are not believers. Indeed, we revealed the Torah containing guidance and light by which the prophets who submitted themselves to Allah made judgments for Jews. So too did the rabbis and scholars judge according to Allah's book, with which they were entrusted and of which they were made keepers. So do not fear the people, fear me, nor trade my revelations for a fleeting gain. And those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed are the disbelievers. We ordained for them in the Torah a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a nose for a nose, an ear for an ear, a tooth for a tooth, and wounds for equal retaliation. But whoever waves is charitably, it will be atoned for them. And those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed are the wrongdoers. Then in the footsteps of the prophets, we sent Jesus, son of Mary, confirming the Torah revealed before him. And we gave him the gospel containing guidance and light, confirming what was revealed in the Torah, a guide and a lesson to the God-fearing. So let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it. And those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed in it are the rebellious. So stop there for a minute before we get to verse 48. What does that sound like to you? Is it saying to Christians, you guys got to get rid of Christianity. You got to come to Islam. It's the only truth. Does that sound like what this is saying?
No.
It sounds like it's telling Christians, yeah, just believe in your scripture. You're fine. You'll get to heaven. Just do that. And then you start to scratch your head going, well, wait, the Quran denies Jesus' divinity. It denies that Jesus is the Son of God. It says Jesus wasn't even crucified in Surah 4:157. Like, there's clearly contradictions here. Like the prior stories it claims to, the stories the Quran talks about with like Moses and Abraham and Adam, they don't confirm what we see in the Bible. So it's like, this is odd. Why would it claim to be preaching kind of like the same thing or tell Christians to believe in that work when it clearly teaches something totally different? This is where the Islamic dilemma comes from. If the Quran is right here, that we should judge by the gospel, well, then we can go to the gospel and go, well, I'm going to judge by it. And this teaches a completely different theology than what's in the Quran. Therefore, I can judge that Islam is false.
Right.
So here's what they do, though. They go to the next verse, and this is translated odd. So they'll say, we have revealed to you this book with the truth as a confirmation of the previous scriptures and a supreme authority on them. And they go, aha, we gotcha. It says the Quran is a supreme authority on them. Some will translate this as criterion. The only problem is if we look at this up here, this is the word here for supreme authority. And if you notice, that's not what the word means up here. It says guardian. Now, a guardian is not like a supreme authority over the prior scriptures. This Arabic word is muhaymin. So muhaymin is not a supreme authority on them. This is just oddly translated to sort of hide that. And if you look at early tafsirs, that's like commentary on the Quran, they would say it means like trustworthy, guardian, confirmer, these kinds of things. So it's like saying that it actually guards the prior scriptures from corruption. So it's not actually saying it like is like a criterion or supreme authority. The Arabic word for that, for criterion, would be furqan. And that's actually in Surah 253. And it says Moses and Aaron were given the criterion, furqan. So it's kind of an odd thing. It says that the Torah, that Moses and Aaron in Surah 253 was a criterion, but it never actually says anywhere in the Quran that the Quran is a criterion over the prior scriptures. It says it's a guardian. And a guardian, as you know, is like a hired hand to guard things, to protect it, not to change it, not to be a judge to decide between like what's right and what's wrong. So this is what their go-to is. But also, this translation doesn't even make sense with the context, because if we keep reading, it says, so judge between them by what Allah has revealed and do not follow their desires over the truth that has come to you. To each of you, we've ordained a code of law and a way of life. If Allah had willed, he would have made you one community. But his will is to test you with what he has given each of you. So compete with one another in good deeds. To Allah you will return, then he will inform you of the truth regarding your differences. So the context suggests that the Quran is not a supreme authority. It's just in line with the prior scriptures. It's like a guardian for them. And the Jews have the Torah, the Christians have the gospel and the Torah, the Muslims have the Quran. They're all teaching the same thing. You can be your different communities. It's fine. Just follow the scriptures you were given. And this, of course, makes sense with all the context we just read leading up to this. Therefore, the Islamic dilemma stands. The Quran is teaching something that we don't see the later Muslim community teaching, that they're like the only way to heaven. Instead, they're saying, no, Jews, you're fine. Keep your scriptures. Christians, you keep your scriptures, stay in your communities, whatever. We're all good. We're all on the same page. And then we actually look at the scriptures and we know that that's not the case.
One thing I'd like to bring up real quick is that one of those odd references in the Quran is Ezra, and it makes Ezra out to be the son of God. It claims that it claims that in Judaism, or the Jews believe that Ezra is the son of God, which is just a blatant error. There is no Jewish sect, or there's no evidence at all that this was ever the case.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And what's interesting is this is the Quran's justification for war against the disbelievers. Fight those who do not believe in Allah on the last day, nor comply with what Allah and his messenger have forbidden, nor embrace the religion of truth from among those who were given the scriptures until they pay the tax, that's jizya, willingly submitting, fully humbled. And then it gives a justification. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, while the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. Such are their baseless assertions, only parroting the words of earlier disbelievers. May Allah condemn them. How can they be deluded from the truth? They have taken their rabbis and monks, as well as the Messiah, son of Mary, as lords beside Allah, even though they were commanded to worship none but one God. There is no God worthy of worship except him. Glorified is he above what they associate with him. So this is why Muhammad was commanded to fight the disbelievers, because the Christians and the Jews are saying that Allah has a son. And of course, we go, okay, yeah, Christians say that Jesus is the son of God. Sure, but where does this come from? Where are the Jews saying this? It's absurd. It's nowhere in history. I remember Shabir Ali saying, like, maybe it was like one or a couple guys in Arabia that said this. And it's like, okay, well, then why are you going after all the Jews? Like, this is weird. Like, why would you extrapolate that all Jews believe this? You're supposed to be Allah, the creator of the universe. How are you getting this wrong?
Right. What other major contradictions have you encountered when reading the Quran?
Yeah, well, we can talk a little bit. But one thing I want to note here really quickly is I just want to look at the Arabic here. There's Arabic they say is like, it's like so profound. It's actually kind of sloppy in this verse here, because let's just look at it up here in the Arabic. They have taken their rabbis and their monks as lords beside Allah and the Messiah, son of Mary. So they have taken their rabbis and their monks as lords beside Allah and the Messiah. So as you can see, the grouping is Allah and the Messiah. Now, I'm not saying this is an error. It's just kind of sloppy. It's not like that really well written. You should have Jesus over here with their monks and their lords. Instead, it's over here with Allah. So this grouping is odd. Now, again, it's not saying this is necessarily an error, but that's the case. But if we go to Surah 10, it's another important verse for the Islamic dilemma. Muhammad is having doubts about if his revelations are really from God. And he gets this from Allah. If you, O prophet, are in doubt about these stories, some will say it's about these stories because this is what has been talking about prior to this. But if you are in doubt about that, what we've revealed to you, then ask those who read the scriptures before you. The truth has certainly come to you from your Lord, so do not be one of those who doubts. Okay, well, hold on. Muhammad is having doubts, and so what is he told? He's told to check the prior scriptures. Well, who are those? That's from what the Jews and the Christians possess. But if that's the case, like, we can clearly do that. Muhammad clearly didn't, because he would have went and read like the Gospels and say, oh, Jesus is crucified. Oh, he's the Son of God. I don't see anywhere in this Bible where Ezra is called the Son of God. This is a problem. I mean, so this is another issue here. Allah literally says, if you want to know if what we're telling you is true, check the prior scriptures. And the prior scriptures will confirm everything we're giving you is true. Well, it doesn't. Okay, then Islam is false.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Ezra thing is just so strange. It makes me wonder, like, where did they get the idea from? Like, how did that mistake even happen?
It's a huge conundrum in scholarship. And there's even a hadith. I can find it here in a little bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's where the Jews come to Allah on the last day. And this is what he asked them. Like, why did you say that Ezra was the son of God? I mean, that'd be a funny SNL skit. Like the Jews show up and they're like, what are you talking about? We never said that. Allah is confused. Like, but that'll never happen. Maybe we should do that at some point, David Wood and I. But yeah, that's just a odd thing there. You also have Surah 29, which I've mentioned earlier. This is another important one for the Islamic Dilemma, because this is something I tell Muslims when they start fighting with me, and they're saying there's an error in the Bible. There's an error in the Bible. Hold on. What does Allah tell you? Allah says in Surah 29:46, do not argue with the people of the book unless gracefully, except with those of them who act wrongfully, and say, we believe in what has been revealed to us and what has been revealed to you. Our God and your God is one, and to him we submit. Whoa. Muslims are commanded by Allah to believe in what has been revealed to the Christians, the Old and New Testament. They are commanded to believe in this. So anytime a Muslim is saying, oh, there's an error in your Bible, well, your God told you to believe in it. Why would you say there's errors in it? Are you saying your God sent down something with errors? This is a huge problem. This is not a problem for atheists, but it is for Muslims. This verse alone is hugely problematic for them. You just bring this up, even if you're an atheist. Wait. If you're an atheist, you just go to a Muslim. Well, doesn't Allah in Surah 29:46 command you to believe in the Christian scriptures? Don't they contradict the Quran? Isn't that a problem for you? Islamic Dilemma right there. Pretty simple.
Now, what's the second major one that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'll go to two verses for this one. This was one I had presented. This is another weird conundrum, and Muslims have a really hard time wrestling with this one because it talks about the earliest followers of Jesus here. So, Surah 3:55, and then we'll go to Surah 61:14. Remember when Allah said, "Oh Jesus, I will take you and raise you up to myself. I will deliver you from those who disbelieve, and elevate your followers above the disbelievers until the day of judgment. Then to me you will all return, and I will settle your disputes." Notice the passage. I will elevate your followers above the disbelievers until the day of judgment. Now let's combine that with Surah 61:14. Let me go down here. Just read the verse. It's at the last verse. It's a surah about having Muslims stand up to fight for Allah, and then they use this as an example at the end. O believers, stand up for Allah, as Jesus, son of Mary, asked the disciples, who will stand up for me? Who will stand up for me and Allah? The disciples replied, we will stand up for Allah. Then a group from the children of Israel believed, while another disbelieved. We supported the believers against their enemies, so they prevailed. Now let's put two and two together. Allah says he's going to elevate the followers of Jesus above the disbelievers until the day of judgment. And it says this is starting with the disciples of Jesus in the first century. Because notice, it doesn't say first century, but it does say the disciples who we know were in the first century. And then it says we supported these believers against the enemy, so they prevailed. Well, that's problematic. What Christians starting in the first century became uppermost or prevailed over their enemies? Was it the Ebionites? Was it Gnostic sects? No, it was Orthodox Trinitarian Christians, the Nicene Christians. They were the ones who were elevated and became uppermost. Why is Allah supporting blatant heretics, according to Islam, and elevating them over the disbelievers? This is another weird conundrum. It seems as though a lot of early Muslims thought that the earliest Christians were actually like just early Muslims, and then it was later corrupted. In fact, if we go to Sears on this, like let's go to Ibn Kathir. He's got a really weird historical take on this. Let me pull it up here. It's interesting, and it's completely ahistorical. But this is a Tafsir. Tafsir is a commentary. So he's commenting on Surah 3:55 here. This is a well-renowned Islamic scholar. Let me just put up here Ibn Kathir. Here's what he says about this. So he says, however, some of them went to the extreme over Isa, believing that Isa is the Islamic name for Jesus, believing that he was the son of Allah. Some of them said that Isa was Allah himself, while others said that he was one of Trinity. Allah mentioned these false creeds in the Quran and refuted them. The Christians remained like this until the 3rd century, when a Greek king, Constantine, became a Christian for the purpose of destroying Christianity. Constantine was either a philosopher or he was just plain ignorant. Constantine changed the religion of Isa by adding to it and deleting from it. He established the rituals of Christianity and the so-called Great Trust, which is in fact the Great Treachery. He also allowed them to eat the meat of the swine, changed the direction of prayer that Isa established to the east, built churches for Isa, and added 10 days to the fast as compensation for the sin that he committed as claimed. So the religion of Isa became the religion of Constantine, who built more than 12,000 churches, temples, and monasteries for the Christians, as well as the city that bears his name, Constantinople. So, according to some of the early commentators, the earliest Christians were actually apparently believing Muslims, and then Constantine came and corrupted it. Of course, we know that's absolute nonsense. Constantine didn't do that. This is conspiracy, but this is what the Muslims were promoting. So if you read Ibn Kathir, he's trying to comment on Surah, verse in Surah 36, and he's trying to figure out who these men were who were sent for Allah. And he mentions Paul as being a possibility because he's just assumed Paul was just another good follower of Jesus, another good Muslim. And now we know the Muslims constantly argue that Paul is the one who corrupted Christianity. But not according to early writers like Tabari, as well as Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Hisham, who is taking the writings of Ibn Ishaq and confirming them in a lot of his own writings. And then, of course, we have Ibn Kathir, as well as some others. This is an odd issue for them here, is that why are they saying that the earliest Christians were like Muslims and they were made uppermost? Okay, well, this creates another Islamic dilemma. Okay, so either Allah is supporting blatant heretics that are preaching heresy, which would go against Allah's nature, or those are not the real followers of Jesus, but the Quran assumes they are, and therefore Islam is false either way. So once again, another Islamic dilemma, either because of things the Quran says, Islam is either false or it is false.
Right. You have a super chat. We have a super chat question from Asex222. Thank you for your super chat. Not a Muslim Buddhist here, but Mike misrepresents the meaning of Muhamminu. See Quran 59:23. I'm sorry? What?
Muhammad.
Oh, thank you. Islam is obviously false, but this argument sucks.
So he is Allah, there is no God except him, the King, the most holy, the all-perfect, the source of serenity, the watcher of all, the almighty, supreme in might. Now, the word watcher is Muhammad. Now, I don't see that as an issue because, yeah, he's the guardian of all. I'm not sure what he would mean that I'm misrepresenting thing. And I can, let me pull up a classical tough Sears on this if he wants, because we can go through and we can show that, a lot of this stuff is, let me pull this up here. So I got this from Giant DOC. They're friends of mine. They do a lot. They come in on my channel. They've been on others as well. But if we just go to the classical tough Sears here, from what they have given me here, we can see, look, witness, entrustor, confirmer. These are what this was understood early on. And with Allah, yeah, here they mention the verse 59:23, the witnesser, the preserver, the confirmer, trustworthy. This is how this is used in the classical tafsirs. So what does it mean to say something is a Muhammad over it? So with Allah, yeah, this is something we've addressed many times. You can check out when Jai and AOC have been on my channel in the past when we went through this. But I mean, yeah, this is not an issue for us. This has never been an issue. We were fully aware of that verse.
All right, I'm going to take a couple of non-super chat questions.
Sure.
I want to bring this one up because this is like a argument from authority, which is a fallacy, everybody, because that doesn't alter the evidence. But JI80 says, please ask Jones to detail what credentials he has.
Yeah, I've never claimed to have any credentials in this. I have a master's in from the University of Arizona in philosophy. But I mean, so what? I mean, we're just talking about, and I would say never take my word for it. Go to the sources. This is why I've given you the verses. This is why I've given you the tafsirs. Go read it for yourself. This is not, I'm not saying you have, I'm not saying you have to go to authority to get all your facts. I mean, I'm saying if you want to, like, if a Muslim comes to you and tries to convert you, how are you going to deal with it? Here's the way to deal with it. Or do you have to say, well, I'm not an authority, I can't say either way? No, you're going to explain why you're not going to convert to Islam, because you have your own beliefs and your own ideas, and there's nothing wrong with you presenting things as to why you would think Islam is false. If a Muslim comes to me, a Christian, and is like, hey, like, convert to Islam, I'm going to be like, no. Your God told me to stay a Christian. Surah 568 says, oh, people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you stand on the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. Okay, by your own book, I should remain a Christian.
Demon Orca 95, thank you for your question. Is it true that the Quran gives detailed instructions on how to conquer other countries?
No, I would say you get more of that in like the later, like the Surah. These are like biographies, as well as hadith. I don't think it's going to give detailed instructions. There are verses that Muslims can pull from, like I mentioned, Surah 9, but it's not going to give detailed instructions on how to conquer other countries. It's not like giving you like battle tactics or plans like that, but there are theological motives they can draw from for that.
So now I'd like to shift to where it specifically states in the Quran that Jesus wasn't crucified. He didn't die on the cross, stuff like that.
Yeah, we can go to that. So we go to Surah 4. It's in Surah 4, 157, I believe. So okay. Very far down here. Let me get down there. Almost there. So yeah. Yep, here it is. So they start here. They were condemned for breaking their covenant, rejecting Allah's sign, killing the prophets unjustly, and for saying our hearts are unreceptive. It is Allah who has sealed their hearts for their disbelief, so they do not believe except for a few. For their denial and outrage, accusations against Mary, and for boasting, we killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, the messenger of Allah, but they neither killed nor crucified him. It was only made to appear so. Even those who argue for this are in doubt. They have no knowledge whatsoever, only make assumptions. They certainly did not kill him. So, yeah, this is the classical understanding is that, yes, this is claiming that Jesus wasn't crucified. Maybe he was made to appear so maybe someone stood in for him. This was Ibn Kathir's view that Jesus went to his disciples and he's like, hey, someone stand in for me, who will do it? Someone agreed, and he was made to look like Jesus. The Romans came and arrested that guy, crucified him instead. Problem, of course, is that we know, like, Gerd Ludemann says that it's just indisputable that Jesus died by crucifixion. Right. There's no historian that would deal with this. Or that would suggest that this was like something else. So this, becomes a kind of another big issue for them, because this is just completely contradictory to what we see in the historical record.
It seems like they're borrowing from different denominations, because Irenaeus in the late 2nd century talked about that. I think they were called the Simonians, who believed that Simon of Cyrene was crucified instead of Jesus. So it looks like this idea is being, they're lifting this idea from other Christian groups, other denominations that were saying different things about who died on the cross.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like they're kind of getting this from Gnostics. And I mean, this would make sense if, Muhammad was illiterate and he's just sort of hearing stories from different people he's trading with, people coming through Medina. And he meets some Gnostics who claim this. And I think, he probably liked it because a lot of Muslims don't like the idea of Jesus being crucified because it's humiliating, it's degrading. So this would have made more sense. Now, some Muslims will deny this and they'll say, no, Jesus was crucified. And they'll reinterpret a lot of this stuff. That is definitely a possibility because it was made to appear so. Maybe could be retranslated. It might be a little ad hoc though. But I mean, like, some will say, well, no. It's saying that the Jews were boasting, because notice it says they were boasting. They killed the Messiah. And it's just saying that they didn't kill him. The Romans are the ones who really killed him. But that's not really the response from the Quran. As you notice, the response is it was only made to appear so. So it's if like the Romans are, if the Quran was confirming the crucifixion and it's just denying that the Jews killed him, they would say, well, no, you were boasting that you killed the Messiah, but really it was others who did it. But instead it says it was made to appear so. And I think the most plausible reading is how it's translated here and what the earliest commentators say. So it seems as though it's taking that Gnostic idea that there was maybe a substitute, or it was just sort of like made to like be sort of like an illusion. But there are Muslims, they're a minority, but they do deny that this is claiming this is claiming that the Quran denies the crucifixion. Not entirely convinced of their arguments, because I think of this line here, it was made to appear so, is the Quran's answer for their boasting. It was all an illusion, basically, is what they're getting at. And I think that's what they're trying to say.
Now, I know that not all of them will do this, but some of them, at least a good some of them, I think, but definitely some of them will attempt to use the Gospel of Barnabas to try to prove that, hey, somehow Barnabas knew about Muhammad, even though it's obviously a forgery, a very late forgery. So in the Gospel of Barnabas, it has a story there where Jesus made Judas Iscariot appear to be like himself, and then they seized Judas and crucified him instead.
Mm-hmm.
And it also says things that it makes Muhammad appear to be like a celestial figure who pre-existed, and it also says that he's the Messiah. So it's got all kinds of other stuff there that's not typically, it's not believed by Muslims today.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. And again, everyone knows this is like a medieval forgery. No one really takes this seriously, except some Muslims who've not read it. I don't even see academic Muslims taking it seriously because it's just so strange. So it's like one of those things you're like, okay, well, obviously this is nonsense. And I had to do a couple shorts on TikTok and Instagram like a year or two ago. So it's in 2023, I think. And they were citing the Gospel of Barnabas as their go-to. So I had to go through and debunk and go, okay, this is obviously not first century. I don't have to tell you guys. But yeah, it's a very odd place to go when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I mean, it just shows to show you the kind of pickle they're in. The Quran clearly claims to confirm the prior scriptures. Surah 568, Surah 1094, Surah 2946. So maybe they'll say, well, maybe there's some other scriptures that Jesus had. That's the scriptures it's really confirming. And if it can be like the Gospel of Barnabas, we'll go with that. And of course, that just always fails constantly for them.
Let me see here. Here we go. Cicero asks, did Allah call himself a deceiver in the Quran?
Yeah, so there is a verse. Let me pull it up here. The best of they'll translate it as the best of planners. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine, Ish of Arabia. He was recently on Matt Frad. He's an ex-Muslim from Egypt. And so he says, no, that word means deceivers. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. So, yeah. So, and remember, O Prophet, when the disbelievers conspire to capture, kill, or exile you, they planned, but Allah also planned. Allah is the best of planners. So you can see that there. It's an 830. But I mean, so the problem is this word here Al-Makirin is probably deceiver. Now they'll say it means planners because that sounds nicer. But I mean, the Arabic probably more or less means deceiver. But yeah, this is what they try to translate it as. And of course, you can see the contrast here that when the disbelieved conspire to capture, kill, exile you, they planned. But no, they didn't just plan, they were also deceiving. And so you can see the play on words there sort of going with the prior line there. So yeah, it could mean plan, but you kind of got to stretch it. It's, as far as I can tell from what people have said, it probably more likely means deceiver.
Now, doesn't Allah refer to himself as in like we did this, we did that?
I just did a short video on that, I think like a week or two ago. Yeah, it's I just showed you one. Surah 1094, we sent down the Quran.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so that's an odd thing too. Now, I did a short video on this and I'll summarize it here because this is another conundrum. There's another place in the Quran where it says like we created the heavens and the earth. Oh, that's odd. Who is creating the heavens and the earth? So Muslims, a lot of Muslim apologists will be like, well, this is a royal plural. Allah is a king. He's speaking as a royal plural. And you could go, okay, that makes sense. But then you think more about it. When a king or a ruler speaks of himself as we, it's because he represents his cabinet or his people. We, the King of England, have set up this museum, or we, the King of England, have doing. You're speaking on behalf of your people. That's the rationale. That's the logic behind the royal plural or the majestic plural. So who is Allah speaking on behalf of? And then there's the other issue here is that Allah actually gave them the answer. And I talked about this in my video. I went to the life of Ibn Asaq for this. So let me see if I get the right one here. No, let me go to Surah 3 here. So Surah 3. So in the life of Muhammad and Ibn Asaq, there's a group of Christians that come to Muhammad and they make this argument, why is Allah saying we? And so Muhammad gets an answer, and he gets the beginning. Ibn Asaq says he gets the beginning of Surah 3. And specifically, it's this verse he cites as the answer as to why Allah says we. He is the one who is revealed to you. And notice also the plural pronouns start dropping, and he just says he all of a sudden as he's answering these Christians. He is the one who's revealed to you the book, of which some verses are precise. They are the foundation of the book, while others are elusive. I'll repeat that. While others are elusive. Those who are with deviant hearts follow the elusive verses, seeking doubt through their interpretations, but none grasp their meaning except Allah. For as those who are well grounded in knowledge, they say, we believe in that it's the Quran, as it is from the Lord, but none will be mindful of this except people of reason. So I love this line. If you reject the Quran, you're not a person of reason, according to Allah. But what's Allah's answers as to why he sometimes uses plural pronouns? It's a mystery. It's only he knows the full meaning, and you're not allowed to know. Just shut up, accept it. That's a mystery. So it's not the majestic plural. That's not Allah's answer. And that's not Muhammad's answer. The Christians of Arabia also didn't think the majestic plural solve this. So yeah, why is Allah saying we? Well, that's a mystery. Just believe it.
If you had to pick one, what would you say is like the top problem? Like what is your favorite? In other words, what is your favorite among all these major issues that you've seen in the Quran?
I mean, I think the first Islamic dilemma, the one I presented, is probably my favorite. Here's a verse I've not said yet. This is my go-to verse for the Islamic dilemma. Say, O people of the book. Now, people of the book are Jews and Christians. So he's saying, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And your Lord's revelations to you, O prophet, will cause many of them to increase in wickedness and disbelief. So do not grieve for the people who disbelieve. Okay, telling us Christians, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord. Go a couple verses earlier, 47. What did it say earlier? The people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it. Now, the problem for Muslims is Allah is not talking to them in these two verses. He's talking to Christians. He's saying, you Christians, you judge by the gospel. You stand on what has been revealed to you from your Lord. That puts us Christians in the judgment seat. We don't get to hear from Muslims what our scriptures are. Allah says, just believe your scriptures, stand on them, judge by them. So we decide what our scriptures are. So that would be the Old and New Testament. Then we can judge by them. If we can judge by them, we can then just conclude the Quran is false. Case in point, Islam is false. It's that simple because of these two verses alone. Surah 547, Surah 568 alone show the Quran is not internally consistent in this modified internal critique. Therefore, Islam has to be false because it tells Christians that you sit in the judgment seat on this. You go to your scriptures, you judge by them. Okay, then I judge Islam as false.
So how do they try to get around this? Because you've pointed out that there are other parts of the Quran that seem to conflict with those parts that you've just read. Are there other parts of the Quran where it states that is there any instructions of forced conversion? Because I know some people will claim that if that is there. Um, does it say anything like that in the Quran?
No, there's a verse in the Quran where it says like there's no compulsion in religion. So there's nothing where it says you should need to force converts. There is let me get this one here. It's Surah 489. This is about apostates, though. This is their precedent to say that they can they can go after apostates and execute them, which is of course horrible. My friend apostate prophet, he's under a death sentence because he left Islam. We always say, Islam is a religion it's easy to get into, but it's hard to get out of it for that obvious reason. And this is why there's a lot of people in the Islamic world that will just say they're Muslim, even though they're probably not. So that would be the Surah 489. But no, they would not say that they're going to force you to. But there is a lot of like coercion tactics in like the Sharia, for example. So like, Jews and Christians, you can live peacefully under the Islamic rule, but you can't build new churches. You can't repair old churches. You can't own weapons. You can't ride horses. You got to pay this special tax to represent your submission to the Muslim authorities. So you grow up in that community. It makes more sense from a pragmatic standpoint to just convert to Islam, because then you can be part of the conquest. You can pillage instead of just sort of being a second-class citizen. And so there are those kind of tactics in the Sharia. Oh, also as a Christian and Jew, you can't. As a Christian living under Islam, you cannot proselytize or evangelize Muslims. You can't marry Muslim women, but Muslim men can marry Christian women. So you can see these sort of like tactics designed to sort of like slowly eradicate Judaism and Christianity over time. And of course, Christians are commanded in the Gospels to evangelize. So it's like they have to if they follow the gospel. So it's if you want to be a Christian under Islam, you have to disobey the gospel message. And do what the Muslim authorities tell you. And of course, a lot of Christians won't do that.
And the reason I brought that up earlier is because some people will claim, even though I also never encountered evidence of this myself, that the Quran ever said, gave instructions for forced conversion. But a lot of these, but it is, however, true that a lot of ideas, or even current Islamic ideas, seem to have emerged after the Quran, because you have the hadith, which has a lot of other stuff there that's not in the Quran, including much more details about Muhammad's life, which the Quran doesn't have because it only mentions Muhammad like 4 times in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's because of Surah 33:21, which says Muhammad is an excellent moral example. But the Quran really doesn't tell us a lot about what Muhammad did. So you need the sayings of the prophet to know how you can follow his example. And you get things like, he married multiple women. He had sex slaves. He married a 6-year-old and then consummated the marriage when he was 9. He owned and traded African slaves. He committed in raids on caravans, for example. Great guy, excellent moral example. So this is another huge problem for Islam. They spend a lot of time trying to do damage control for all the evil Muhammad has done and trying to prop him up as if he is an excellent moral example. If you go back like 20 years, this was one of their arguments that Islam was true. Like they were trying to say, well, Islam has to be true because look at how good of a person Muhammad was. Clearly this was from God. And so a lot of people like David Wood and Nabil Quresh started going into the hadith and go, well, this is a good person. Why did he do this? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? And then they started dropping that argument conveniently because they realized there's a lot of damage control they have to do if he really is an excellent moral example.
And then that brings up the question of what kind of Muhammad was the Quran talking about? Because the Quran didn't have all these details that the hadith has about Muhammad. It doesn't really, like one could argue that it's not even really the same. Is it even the same personality? What is the Quran talking about when it talks about Muhammad?
It's a good question. I mean, there are a lot of scholars, critical scholars, that do think that, like Stephen Shoemaker, Robert Hoyland, Patricia Crone, as well as others that do think that Islam was sort of evolving through this time. Like the earliest Muslim community that was around Muhammad was more inclusive. They were allowing Christians and Jews. This is what Robert Hoyland talks about in his book, God's Path. It was more of like an Arab coalition of Muslim Jews and Christians. It comes out of Arabia, starts conquering. And then under the Umayyad Caliphate, under Abdul Malik, then they start to recoalesce around Islam as their identity, not Arab. And so that's when Christians start getting excluded, in that kind of aspect. So there are a lot of critical scholars that have argued that, yeah, Islam sort of did evolve. And so a lot of the hadiths are very unreliable. We're talking 150, 200 years after Muhammad lived. I mean, like, could you imagine if the Gospels were written in the time of origin, for example? That's what we're dealing with when it comes to like the biographies of Muhammad, the Sura, as well as the hadith, the sayings of the prophet. These are, we're talking like over 100 years minimally after Muhammad. And then we're, you know, like, they're really not even the most reliable ones. The ones they say are the most reliable are like Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. These are, you know, 200 years or so, roughly, give or take. I don't remember the exact number, but that's crazy. This is why, you know, Yasser Qadi recently blew up on the internet saying that the hadiths just are not used by critical scholars on Islam. It's just, he'll use them in the madrasa. He'll use them when he's preaching. He'll go to Sahih al-Bukhari, but he can't do that in academia because academia just knows this is a late, unreliable work. Joshua Little, who's a hadith scholar, wrote his dissertation on this and just said, like, this is all nonsense. We can't trust this stuff about him. Again, it's like, could you imagine if the 4 Gospels were written in the time of origin? That's what it's like comparable to.
Right. Yeah, I had Joshua Little on the show. We did a show about the hadith. But yeah, when you look at the scholarship on there, they really do show that the hadith is a contradictory mess. And really, now some may have different opinions on how much of it they'll interpret as a contradictory mess, but yes, there's essential. From what I know, there's essential agreement. At least those that are being critical of the hadith that see it that way.
Yeah, and they'll say things like they have hadith science, so they call it isnad. It's a chain of narration. So Muhammad said this, he told it to this companion said it to this person said it to that person, this person said it to that person, then he wrote it down in Sahih al-Bukhari. It's like, okay, you know how easy that is to make up? I could just make up a chain of narration right here and just make up a saying of Muhammad. Who's to say someone in the 9th century didn't do that, or the 8th century didn't do that? They were trying to justify something. This is why it's a contradictory myth. This is why Joshua Little will tell you it is, because anyone could just make up a chain of narration and say that, yeah, this is what was said by Muhammad. So yeah, that's their, they call it hadith science, and they're really proud of it. The Muslim community is, specifically in the Salafi movement. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, it's just because, you know, this guy said it to 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 this guy. You got like, you know, 4 or 5 people in there before it's written down. I mean, like, any one of them could just made a mistake or added something or changed something, or anyone could just make up a chain of narration later on when they're writing down hadith. I mean, this is a problem. And so that's not a science. We need other indicators to know if something is reliable.
Also, it becomes difficult to know a lot about the historical Muhammad, but again, that assumes that the Quran's Muhammad is talking about the same person, if I can put it that way, as the one that's in the hadith. To the extent that how much can one say that their lives are alike when the Quran only tells you about Muhammad 4 times? It's like imagining the New Testament only mentioned Jesus 4 times.
Yeah, it'd be odd. And I think you're right. I think the Muhammad of the hadith, well, I mean, there's many Muhammads in the hadith if you really want to think about it. They're, you mentioned contradictory accounts. And so it's like, I think the Muhammad of the hadith is probably not the Muhammad of the Quran. Again, I think Stephen Shoemaker, Robert Hoyland are right about this, that the Muhammad of the hadith is, you know, like a later development. People are they're making up sayings to justify whatever they want to believe later in the community. I'm trying to remember the exact number, but Sahih, when Bukhari went around to collect the hadith, he looked at like, I think 60,000. I don't remember the exact number. Let me look it up really quickly.
Sure.
He looked at like 1,000. Yeah, he looked at like 60,000 hadith or so. He threw out most of those and only took about, I believe, around 7,000 hadith. Included around 7,000 hadith with repetitions, or roughly 2,600 without repetitions. So he looked at 600,000 sayings of Muhammad and determined most of those were unreliable. And he somehow figured out that only this couple thousand were reliable. Question. How do you know that those were the reliable ones? And of course, there was some bias going in there. Like he didn't want to include things that made Muhammad look bad. I mean, there were some issues here in terms of what he was doing. He's writing in a very pro-Islamic community. You don't attack the prophet. Don't say bad things about the prophet. I mean, there's a lot of biases going around in the community. They're going to affect that. It's a weird issue there. It's not like, the early Christians writing in a very hostile environment. I mean, when Justin Martyr's writing, I mean, there's a reason we call him Justin Martyr, for example.
Right. Let me see if I can pull up another question from the chat.
If you want, I can give you another verse that I always find odd that is in the Quran. This is clearly an error.
Okay, go ahead. I'll pull up this statement I'll pull up this question that I found after you talk about it.
Yeah. Surah 67:5. And indeed, we adorned the lowest heaven with stars like lamps and made them as missiles for stoning eavesdropping demons, for whom we have prepared the torment of the blaze. So stars are for stoning demons.
Okay, then. That's
I love that verse. This is in
the
I believe in the hadith, this is like Muhammad's answer as to why, like, hey, we went to this sorceress or this witch or this fortune teller, and she got it right. She predicted the future. And so Muhammad's like, yeah, that's because some demons sneak up to heaven to eavesdrop in on the plans of Allah. And then they come down and tell the fortune tellers. And when Allah catches them, he'll throw a star at them. And that's what shooting stars are.
Wow. Minka, thank you for your question. Is Mike familiar with Hilarion Hegi? He is a former Orthodox priest that became a Muslim. He wrote a blog post about the Islamic Dilemma and affirms interpretation issues, not textual corruption.
I'm not. I want to check that out, though. I'm very interested to see what he has to say. He wrote a blog post about the Islamic Dilemma and affirms interpretation issues. So this is one of the answers to the Islamic Dilemma. I'm not sure exactly how he words it, so don't quote me on it. But some will say, well, no. That you do have the Injil or the gospel with you. You've just not interpreted it right. So some Muslims will say, like, the Q source preserved in Matthew and Luke is the Injil, and you just got to interpret it right. Or some will say it's just the red letters, whatever Jesus said in the four gospels. And of course, I mean, like, we can have that debate. I mean, Jesus says he's going to die in the Q source and in the red letters of the Bible. I mean, like, there's no way to get around that. And he claims to be the Son of God in that as well. I mean, so yeah, they'll try that kind of stuff, and I don't think it works. Let's just say it makes for very, very ad hoc, absurd interpretations of what Jesus was saying. You would never get unless you started with the Quran being true, read that theology into the Bible to make it fit the Quran, and then you're just using circular reasoning.
What does the Quran say about the apocalypse, and do you see dilemmas there that are problematic?
The apocalypse?
Yeah, the end times. Does the Quran say anything about that is problematic?
I don't think so. And not that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe it'll come to me later. There is a hadith, which is a little odd, of Muhammad. I can put it up here. Let me get this. So yeah, this is in Sahih Muslim. Is this the right one? Yeah. So when would the last hour come? Thereupon Allah's messenger kept quiet for a while, then looked at a young boy in his presence belonging to the tribe of, I don't know how to pronounce this, Ads Shanua. Probably butchered that. I'm sure, I did. And he said, if the boy lives, he would not grow very old till the last hour would come to you. It's not said that this young boy was of our age during those days. So Muhammad seemed to predict the end coming very, very soon. That boy should not die. The end's going to come before it. And this is in Sahih Muslim. This is just like one step below Bukhari.
Whatever issues that you haven't mentioned yet that you've encountered in the Quran.
Yeah, I can put something else up here. Here's another fun one. What is it? Surah. I believe it's this one. Yeah, Surah 86. So let me put this one up. Yeah, there it is. So they were, so he's talking about basically semen. It's from a spurious fluid stemming from between the backbones and the ribs. Okay, so it says semen comes from the backbone and the ribs. This is another really odd problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, another odd one there. There's another one. Let me see if I can find it really fast here. Yeah, it's about Dul Qarnayn. Do you know who Dul Qarnayn is?
No, I don't.
Dul Qarnayn is just essentially Alexander the Great. That's his name in the Quran.
I see.
So it says, so Dul Qarnayn, he reached the setting point of the sun, which appeared to him to be setting in a spring of muddy water, where he found some people. Now, up until, but for the first, I think 400 or 500 years of Islam, they interpreted this as literal. Like Dul Qarnayn found the place the sun sets because the sun went around the earth and it's set into a muddy pool. Now, the translation here is a little bit odd, but yeah, it's, until he reached the setting place of the sun, he found it setting in a spring, dark mud. Notice it doesn't say appeared to him anywhere in this that they like to put in the translation. It just says, until he reached the setting place of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of dark mud. And he found near it a community. So Alexander the Great apparently discovered that the sun sets in a muddy pool, which is another very odd claim.
Does the Quran make other claims like that?
Like ahistorical ones?
Yeah, that you can pull up.
Yeah, let me get one up here. So there are places in the Quran, I'm trying to remember where they are, where it says that the Pharaoh crucified, was crucifying people in ancient Egypt, which is, again, kind of odd.
Yeah.
Now they'll say it's a spot. There's it's about just putting them on like a spike. I think this is it. Then Pharaoh threatened, "How dare you believe in him? Before I give you permission, it must be your master who taught you magic. I will certainly cut off your hands and feet on opposite sides and crucify you on the trunks of palm trees." We know crucifixion didn't exist in the ancient world. They'll say it means impale, but I mean, there's another. That's not. It's when I talk to scholars about this, they would say this is not the Arabic word you would use for that. And so it's again, it's an odd thing, why you would think that crucifixion exists in ancient Egypt. But I mean, they'll say the Muslim apologists will say it means impale. And it's like, okay, maybe, but I mean, it seems like we're stretching the meaning of the word. And why is it that when you look at the classical tafsirs, they will say, oh, no, crucifixion. So again, very odd.
Yeah. It's like somebody confused Romans with Egyptians there, I guess.
Something. It's weird. They'll do some stuff, like they'll try to say there were these historical miracles in the Quran. Like this is one of their favorite arguments for the truth that this came from Allah, is that in the time of Joseph, I believe it's Surah 12, it only says there was a king of Egypt. Just says king. But then in the time of Moses, it says there was a pharaoh. And they'll know, well, in the new kingdom, they started using the term pharaoh, which is when Moses was said to have lived. Joseph lived before that. No one would have been called the ruler of Egypt a pharaoh. Therefore, the Quran has a miracle in it, a historical miracle. It somehow knows before modern Egyptology that king was only the term you'd use for the ruler of Egypt. And then in the time of Moses, you could use pharaoh. The problem, of course, is that it's not statistically significant, because the story of Joseph, it says king 11 or 12 times versus the extended stories of Moses, which says Pharaoh a lot. So we're talking about a very small statistical amount of words we could draw from. If you do the math, it's going to be statistically significant. And also, I mean, it sort of ignores the fact that when the word Pharaoh goes into other languages, it's used as just a general term for a ruler of Egypt. So modern Egyptologists talk about Pharaoh Khufu or Pharaoh Dozier, even though they would never have been called that, because when these words move across languages, you know, they actually just take on different meanings. If there was a real miracle, why is it not using the actual Egyptian terms, the ancient Egyptian term? Why is it using Arabic terms? I mean, in the same passage in Surah 12, it's using terms for like Greek loan words as well. It's like, it's a very weird thing. Like, why would you do that if you're trying to say this is a historical miracle? You know, you got to hold their feet to the fire here. Like, why are you using Greek loan words in this passage for, like, you know, dirhams for like the currency, as well as even using the term pharaoh, which comes from the Greek. So if you want this to be an historical miracle, it really has to be. You just can't pick out the details you want and ignore the ones that make this is a real problem.
Now, have you encountered times when the hadith would contradict the Quran? Major contradictions between the hadith and the Quran?
Yeah, and when that happens, Muslims will say that's where the hadith is wrong. So they don't say the hadith is like infallible. They will say it's like one step below the Quran. If there's a problem with it where it contradicts the Quran, you throw that out. That's wrong. But anytime it doesn't, then you accept it. And I'm trying to think of some on top of my head. I can't think of any right now. But the Muslims just say, well, that's where one of the hadith is wrong. We can say that's a problem there.
What other major issue that you've encountered when looking at the Quran in terms of making a historiographical error?
One of the issues I would say, I mean, I don't know if you would use this argument because I don't think you believe in an historical exodus, but the Quran is very clear the Pharaoh drowned in the Red Sea. It says it like explicitly a couple of times. And you know, and then they will agree that based on the historical analysis, Ramesses II was the Pharaoh of the Exodus, but we know Ramesses didn't drown in the Red Sea. So they'll be like, okay, so the Quran says the Pharaoh drowned in the Red Sea. We have no evidence of any Pharaoh from the New Kingdom drowning in the Red Sea. And so that's another issue they would have. I would say the Bible's ambiguous about it, but that's whole nother issue. But the Quran is pretty explicit. The Pharaoh drowned in the Red Sea. And it's like, what? Ramesses didn't drown in the Red Sea. None of the pharaohs of the New Kingdom drowned in the Red Sea. And then it also says, like, we preserve the Pharaoh's body to this day as a testament to what they did there. And it's like, but none of the bodies of the pharaohs from the New Kingdom are testaments to someone drowning in the Red Sea. Like, it's another odd issue they come up with, or that the Quran has.
Yeah, that would make it appear that that's another contradiction between the Quran and the Bible.
Yeah,
because
I believe
it's specifying something that the Bible does not.
It does, yeah, and like you know, like I remember reading James Hoffmeyer. He says like it doesn't say that Pharaoh survived or drowned. It just leaves it open. It's an ambiguous question. I believe somewhere else it says there was chainmail in the time of David, which we know is just not true. Sometimes that'll be translated to sort of hide that. But I think I remember talking to a scholar that the Arabic best understood as chainmail, but Muslims will try to reinterpret it to say that it's not chainmail.
Can you show us where it says that? The chainmail?
Yeah, let me find it. Chainmail David. I think it's in let's see here. Maybe it's Surah 34. Might be there. Let's see here. Yeah, let me pull this up here. What is that? It's Saba. Yeah, so Saba. So instructing, make full length armor, perfectly balance the links in works of righteousness, O family of David. Indeed, I am all seeing of what you do. So make full coats of mail. So there you can sort of see it there. And so, yeah, and it talks about links. So the links in the mail would suggest chainmail. Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, if I'm trying to steel man their argument, they'll say it's like scale armor possibly, but it doesn't really, again, you stretch the Arabic to make it fit. and I'm not convinced that that's the most parsimonious reading of this, but you can sort of see here. You have the links of armor, full coat of mail, chainmail. So this is Surah 34:11.
What other major contradictions have you encountered in the Quran that conflicts with the Bible?
Oh man, well, I mean, so I mean, just the whole theology. I mean, the Quran doesn't speak about atonement. The Gospels are all about the atonement of Jesus, that he's the Son of God. There's Allah has no partners. Let me find you this verse. This is kind of a funny one. Oh, son. So I believe it's, let me see if it's this one here. So it says like Allah has no partners. He's got no son. That's shirk, to associate partners with Allah. There's a verse in the Quran. There's a verse in the Quran where it's he says where it says like Allah does not have partners. Like this is a huge thing, guys. Don't associate partners with Allah. He could never have a son. Now, but then they give a rationale as for why he could never have a son. And it's kind of a little bit of an odd admission here that he may not actually be omnipotent. So he is the originator of the heavens. Here, let me put this up there. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. How could he have children when he has no mate? Well, wait a minute. We'll say this. I was on Avery's channel, God Logic, a while back. We were bringing this up to Muslims. Wait a minute. We would ask them, can Allah have a son if he wants? And they go, yes. Does he need a mate to have a son? And they would go, well, no, he can just have a son. Well, then why does the Quran say, imply this is a necessary precondition for him to have a son? That he would need a mate. It's like if I were to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to drive my car, but I don't have my keys. How could I drive my car if I don't have my keys? That implies necessarily to drive the car, I need my keys. This follow the same logic. Allah literally could not have a son unless he has a mate. That's a necessary precondition. But that means he's not actually omnipotent. He could not just have a son if he wants. He needs a mate to have a son. It's an odd thing to say.
And does it say anything about Mary that contradicts what the New Testament says about Mary?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I mean, there are different things in the Quran about Mary. I'm trying to remember exactly where it says and what it says. Like it says that Allah like breathed on her to like have Jesus be born. So Jesus is born of a virgin in the Quran. There is a place though where the Quran seems to suggest Mary is part of the Trinity, which is again another odd thing to say. I'm trying to remember exactly where that is. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see. There's because it says the Quran verse basically goes like, do not say that Allah is three, say that he is only one. Yeah, here it is. It's in Surah 5. Pulling up all these verses, hard for me to remember. So those who say Allah is a Trinity have certainly fallen into disbelief. So here you want to put that up there. There is only one God. If they do not stop saying this, those who disbelieve among them will be inflicted with painful punishment. It says, will they not turn to Allah in repentance and seek his forgiveness? For Allah is all forgiving and most merciful. The Messiah, son of Mary, was no more than a messenger. Many messengers have come and gone from him. His mother was a woman of truth. They both ate food. See how we make the signs clear, yet see how they are deluded from the truth. Well, wait a minute. Don't say God is three. And then it talks about two partners you're not supposed to associate with Allah, Messiah and Mary, and their rationale as to why they're not partners with Allah, like gods, is because they ate food. So again, it's another odd thing. There's another place I think the Quran does this as well. I'm trying to remember where exactly it is.
And while you're looking for that, I'm struggling to remember, but doesn't it say something very strange about Miriam, Moses' sister?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember that is. Yeah, it seems to think that Mary is, for example, the sister of Aaron. I think that's in one of the earlier surahs. It might be in 2 or 3. I'll look that up in a minute here. Let me go to this other one. This is in Surah 4. I got to scroll all the way to the bottom here because the earlier surahs are really, really long. And then as they get shorter, give or take as they sort of go along. So Surah 4:171, O people of the book, do not go to extremes regarding your faith. Say nothing about Allah except the truth. The Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was no more than a messenger of Allah, the fulfillment of his word through Mary, and a spirit created by a command from him. So believe in Allah and his messenger. Do not say Trinity. Stop fearing good. Allah is one God. Glory be to him. He is far above having a son. To him belongs whatever in the heavens. Allah is sufficient. So yeah, it seems to suggest, I'm trying to think if this is the place or maybe it's not. There's an odd place where it sort of like says don't say 3, but I mean if you take these in combination with Surah 5:116, again it seems to suggest that it's confusing the doctrine of the Trinity, that Mary is somehow a part of it for some weird reason. But I'm not sure if this is the verse I was thinking of. But yeah, there's that. Let me see if I can find you the Miriam one because that's another odd one. Yeah, it's there's a great website called Answering Islam where they sort of go through a lot of this stuff, and they sort of just show. Yeah, it seems to suggest that that maybe Allah is confusing Miriam with Mary, which would again be kind of odd. And the reason why is I think is in the context. It's like it sort of just goes from talking to Miriam to talking about Mary, the mother of Jesus, in a weird way.
Yeah, that's what I recalled. It was something like that. I'm like, well, how does that even work? Can you make her the mother of Jesus?
Yeah, it's an odd thing. I remember reading it, and it was, because I got a copy here, and I came across it in this copy of the Quran I have over here, and I was like, well, that's just really odd. And now I remember hearing some of the Islamic polemicists say it, and I was like, yeah, that's just an odd thing. But yeah, I can't remember where it is off the top of my head. But yeah, I know I remember seeing that in one of the earlier surahs. It might be Surah 2, but I can't remember exactly.
Is she still looking for it, or is or you can't find it?
Let me look for it really quickly here.
Okay.
Let me see. I think might be in chapter 19, but I think there's another place where it says it. Surah 19:28, maybe. I was just gonna talk about the Islamic dilemma. I didn't realize. So.
Oh, I was just curious, real quick, since we brought up Mary.
Yeah, it's another interesting thing. Yeah, it might be. I think I remember reading Tom Holland talk a little bit about this. Yeah, that they may be getting from some sort of like Christian paintings somewhere around in the Levant that they sort of got wrong. He talks about this in his book, The Shadow and the Sword. Could be the
We'll
case.
We'll come back to the dilemma then.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't want to get too far off that or off the original topic. I guess the next thing I'd like to ask is
actually, I just found it. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, here it is. So this is talking about the birth of Jesus. So he responded, I am only a messenger from your Lord sent to bless you with a pure son. She wondered, how could I have a son when no man has ever touched me and I am unchaste? He replied, it will be. Your Lord says, it is easy for me, and so we'll make him a sign for humanity and mercy for us. So she conceived him and withdrew with him to a remote place. Then the pains of labor drove her to the trunk of a palm tree. She cried, alas, wish I had died before this. It was a thing long forgotten. So a voice reassured her from below. Do not grieve. Your Lord has provided a stream at your feet, and shake the trunk of the palm tree towards you. It'll drop fresh, ripe dates. So eat and drink. So it goes on. It goes on. She returned to her people carrying. They said in shock, oh, Mary, you have certainly done a horrible thing. Oh, sister of Aaron, your father was an indecent man, and nor was your mother unchaste. So yeah, it's talking about Mary, and then in the middle of that, it just says, yeah, sister of Aaron. What? So again, I mean, the rationale is maybe it's a different Aaron, but it's like, really? And I think there's a place in Surah 2 where it does something similar as well, where it seems to talk about Aaron and Moses, and then it goes into talking about Mary. It's like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, it's awfully convenient. So do you see a dilemma between anything that is stated in the Quran with what Muslims claim it says today, like major issues with how the interpretation of the text has changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is what critical scholars have noted, is it like you'll see these verses where it says it's confirming the prior scriptures. It's confirming the prior scriptures. And then Muslims will say, well, no, it's not confirming your scriptures. It's confirming parts of it. Or it's confirming the parts that agree with the Quran. Or it's confirming a lost book that Jesus had. And you're going to go, well, I mean, like, as far as we can tell, like, the Quran is pretty explicit here that it's saying that we have the scriptures, saying we should use them. So where does the Quran ever say that our scriptures have been corrupted? We can only use parts of them, or it's talking about a lost book that Jesus had. It's an odd thing. And then you also even have hadiths that work against this. Like you have Sahih al-Bukhari, 68:119, where Muhammad, they bring the Torah to Muhammad and he puts it in the cushion, the judgment seat. And he says, I believe in you and the one who has revealed you. Yeah, it's an odd thing. So the Torah was brought, and then one of the Jews put his hands on the divine verse, started reading and proceeding and following it. And so, yeah. No, sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong one. It's actually Sunan Abu Dawud 4449. That's where he says that line. Sahih al-Bukhari tells a similar story like that. But these are both hadiths that Muslims will use. So if the Quran is saying, or if the hadith and the Quran are both saying Christians have the scriptures that Allah revealed, okay, well, we can go to them and just look at them and see how they contradict Islam. And so they have weird, the Quran puts Muslims in a very difficult situation, to say the least. And again, easy argument that, any atheist, Christian, Buddhist, Jew could use. Why do your scriptures claim to confirm the prior scriptures and then completely contradict them?
Exactly. They might have to try to make a different argument, like, well, they were talking about the original scriptures before they were corrupted.
Well, that's what Sajid Lipton did. He's an Islamic apologist, and that he was replying to me, and he said that. And I said, okay, let's just follow this. So you're violating Occam's razor in so many ways. What you're saying is that Jesus had a book given to him from Allah called the Injil, or the Gospel. Then the earliest Christians didn't use that book, completely lost it, wrote their own Gospels, didn't even mention a book that Jesus had. The early church fathers, who didn't have the gift of brevity, also didn't mention it, missed it, but somehow Christians in Arabia had it. They interacted with Muhammad for him to know about it. Then it was lost in Arabia after the rise of Islam. They didn't want to preserve that for some reason. Now you got to double that, because it not only says that about the Injil, it says that about the Torah as well. So on Sajid's argument, Moses had a Torah given to him from Allah, confirmed what Islam teaches. He lost that, or the Jews didn't use it, but somehow it was still preserved in Arabia. And also it says that Jesus confirmed the Torah. So somehow he had a copy of that, but the Christians didn't use that and lost it either. Like another Torah, like what is going on? Like, think about how convoluted in assumptions about history you have to make for this to work, for it to be different books. It's completely and totally a violation of Occam's razor. When you think about all the crazy stuff you have to posit, like Moses had a different Torah, somehow was preserved in Arabia, but also somehow in Israel for Jesus to be able to confirm it and be aware of it. But then it was lost. Church fathers mentioned another Torah in the gospel, but they still had it in Arabia. And then the Muslims didn't want to keep it after they got the Quran. Like, whoa, like insane reasoning to just try to say it's another book.
Yeah. John Davis, thank you for your super chat. Do you think Mecca was a major city at the time of Muhammad?
No. I mean, Patricia Crone has done a lot of work on this going back, I think, to like the 90s. No, it's definitely wasn't. There's not a lot of water there. For example, you probably had a small settlement of like 50 people at the most. Maybe there was some shrine there, but it really doesn't start to blow up until after the rise of Islam. Even archaeological reports are not finding a lot of evidence of it in the 7th century. One of my favorite things is Muslims will try to say the Bible mentions Mecca in Psalm 84, which is hysterical because it says that they walk through the valley of Baca. And they go, well, Baca, that's another name for Mecca. Haha. It's like, well, no, it's talking about them going to Jerusalem. It says they go to Zion. They go through the valley of Baca to get to Zion. But they ignore those parts. And they'll say that, no, it's about Mecca. So Jews are going from wherever they are in Judea down to Mecca through the valley of Baca. They come right back up to Zion. Like that's something.
Yeah, that reeks of desperation.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
I'm not sure if this will veer off the dilemma issue, but it has to do with their claim that the Quran somehow gets it all right, but the Jewish and Christian scriptures get it wrong, that it's corrupted. So then I think the question should be asked, as it has been asked so many times, how do they know their Quran isn't corrupted? How do they know it hasn't been changed a zillion times?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw an atheist making the same argument on TikTok recently. I mean, if you guys want to say, he said, if you guys want to say the prior scriptures have been corrupted, how do you know your scriptures haven't been corrupted? Because Allah couldn't preserve them. What makes you think you could preserve yours? And again, this is again another issue. I mean, there are textual variants, like the Sana manuscript. I think it's like an 8th century, very early 8th century copy of parts of the Quran. Disagrees with the standard Quran today in multiple places. Even the Birmingham manuscript, the fragmented one there, disagrees and has some variants. So I'm probably going to have a guy named Jay Smith on my channel to talk about some of this because he's done a lot of research on that. I'm going to try to have him on soon to go through a lot of that stuff. Because yeah, he goes through all the different manuscripts of the Quran and talks about them and how old they are and what's preserved and all the variants, because he did that because, again, a couple years ago, one of their arguments for the truth of Islam was the Quran has been perfectly preserved letter for letter down to the day. And it's like, okay, challenge accepted. And then of course it was easily debunked in 5 minutes by doing a little bit of research. So no, that was one of their arguments for the truth of Islam that we just were able to easily debunk.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do as well. Like I've had a couple of critical Islamic scholars on the channel before, but I'd like to get more of them on and really dive deep into all of this. Yeah,
I mean, a good one might be what's his name? Dang it, I just missed it. His name Anthony something. What's his name? I was just following him on X because I thought he was really good. Actually, just downloaded his paper. I was reading it today. Let me just pull it up here. Yeah, Sean W. Anthony. Yeah, he's another one I think would be good. You could interview him. He actually he responded to, I posted a video like a month and a half or so ago, or like 2 months ago, arguing for the Islamic dilemma, and then a Muslim replied, and then he replied to the Muslim, and he said, I think it's a solid argument. So I was like, awesome.
So one last thing I'd like to ask before we close is if you had to pick one out of the many ones that the way I'll be framing this question is, what do you see as the biggest problem from the Quran and trying to harmonize it with the hadith of what Muslims are trying to say today? If you had to pick of one.
I mean, well, the hadith are going to create problems for them as well. It's not like it's going to, I mean, what the standard, the Islamic narrative we get today is not going to help them, because we can go to their tafsirs, we can go to the Surah, we can go to the hadith, we can go to the Quran. We use that in my circle. Like, we're always using their sources to debunk their Islamic narrative. So there's a lot of problems there for them. I mean, like the biggest one, again, I think is just going to be the fact that the Quran gets so many historical things wrong. Like, Jesus wasn't crucified. It says the Jews say Ezra was the son of God. It says, there's crucifixion in ancient Egypt. There's chainmail in the time of David. I mean, then, of course, you have the Islamic dilemma, because we as Christians can just be like, we're going to stick with our scriptures. And they're like, no, you can't. It's been corrupted. Well, your book just says it's not. I mean, we have the perfect excuse as Christians to remain Christian, and they can't do anything about it. But then again, it creates this massive contradiction. And like here, I'll show you an image here that I think Giant DOC made. That I love this image. Yeah, let me put this up here for you. So this is a list they put together of different times we see the word confirming. Sometimes it's talking about, Jesus confirming the Torah, but a lot of these are confirming the Torah, confirming the prior revelations. Like in the first, look at all the times. Like this is not even a full list of all the verses we use for the Islamic dilemma, but you can see over and over again, confirming. The Quran really thinks it's confirming the prior revelations. The Injil confirms the Torah. The Quran confirms the Injil and the Torah. It's like, it's everywhere. This represents an early Islamic community that was more inclusive. They thought they were just preaching the same thing as what the Jews and Christians were. They all thought they were all on the same page. Then Islam develops. They start to realize that's not the case. So they got to change the story. And this is just the evolution of the Islamic narrative. So you just go back to the Quran itself. The Quran is one of our best sources to show that Islam is false. This is hysterical because of this main issue here.
So where would you recommend the audience to go to certain websites? You mentioned one earlier, where they can just go look at a long list of problems with the Quran, contradictions in the Quran, stuff like that.
Yeah, Answering Islam. Also check out Critical Scholars on this. I mean, Patricia Crone has written. Stephen Shoemaker has a great book. What is it? Just read it the other day. Creating the Quran. I don't agree with everything he says in there. I think some of his things are a little too speculative. But yeah, it's a good book as well. Robert Hoyland's book, In God's Path, is also pretty good. Shadow of the Sword by Tom Holland is a great book. He opens by just going through a lot of the problems with the hadith. And then he starts going into the history and how we sort of got to where we are with the formation of the Islamic world. He spends a lot of time going through what was going on in Rome prior, what was going on in the Persian Empire as well, with the Sassanids. So it's a really, really, those are some interesting books, I'd say. But I mean, if you want a very simple answer, just, to anyone tries to convert you to Islam, just use the Islamic dilemma. I mean, real quick, if I was an atheist, I'd just be like, well, your book claims to confirm the prior scriptures. They contradict. See Surah 568, Surah 547, Surah 2946. Boom. End of conversation.
I'd like to remind everybody that Mike Jones' YouTube channel is called Inspiring Philosophy. Again, it's tagged in the description below, and it will also be in the pinned comment. So if you want to go there and subscribe to his channel, you can do that. And with that being said, Mike, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hello viewers, thanks for watching this video from the History Valley YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if any of you wish to further support this channel, please consider checking out this channel's Patreon page and becoming a patron, and or donate through PayPal or through Super Chat during your live stream. Thank you.